The boy we know spent a decade in isolation. He was defined by a cupboard under the stairs and a total lack of connection to his own history. For 11 years, Harry Potter existed in an emotional vacuum, unaware that he was anything more than a burden to his only living relatives. This theory was inspired by Potterhead Facramoin5350. Thank you for the incredible what-if idea. If you want a shout-out in a future video, share your own Harry Potter theories in the comments. If your idea sparks a great story, we'll feature your name for the entire wizarding world to hear. In the original timeline, Fleamont and Euphemia Potter died of dragonpox shortly before Voldemort's first fall. But in this version of the story, they survived. On the night James and Lily died, the Potter line didn't end with a lonely infant. It continued with two formidable, experienced wizards who refused to let their grandson be raised by anyone else. Having grandparents present doesn't remove the grief of losing his parents, but it provides Harry with a primary emotional anchor. This support system makes him less vulnerable to the specific type of psychological isolation Voldemort would later use to try and break him. This created an immediate stalemate for Albus Dumbledore. He insisted on the blood protection at Privet Drive, but Fleamont Potter was a man who built a massive fortune through stubbornness and intellect. He was never going to allow a Potter to grow up in a house where they were hated. They reached a legal and magical compromise. Harry would spend the minimum required time at Privet Drive to keep the blood wards active, while the rest of his life was spent at the Potter estate. The protective shield remained, but the family unit stayed intact. Harry's early childhood is filled with his family's actual history. He grows up listening to Fleamont's stories about James's school days and watching Euphemia's memory threads of Lily. He knows what his mother's voice sounded like because he's heard it in Pensieves, not just in his own nightmares. By the time he reaches age 11, Harry has developed a foundation of belonging. He doesn't go through life searching for a place to fit in. He already knows exactly who he is and where he comes from. Harry walks onto the Hogwarts Express as an educated young wizard. He understands the basic mechanics of magic and the social layout of the castle before he even puts on the sorting hat. Draco Malfoy's attempts to recruit him through pure-blood rhetoric fail immediately. Harry was raised by Fleamont, a man who famously valued talent and character over blood status, making Draco's worldview seem outdated and small. His social circle forms through different motivations. He connects with Ron because he recognizes genuine loyalty, and his calmer, more prepared demeanor allows him to work alongside Hermione without the initial friction caused by his canon-level insecurities. This version of Harry is emotionally secure. He isn't easily baited into dangerous situations or adolescent rivalries because his self-worth isn't tied to proving himself to his peers. Severus Snape's hatred in the original timeline is fueled by Harry's resemblance to James, both in looks and in his perceived arrogance. Snape treats every mistake as proof that Harry is just like his father, but the Harry raised by his grandparents is polite and observant. He approaches potions with the discipline of someone who has been tutored at home, displaying a level of emotional maturity that Snape didn't expect. This creates a disruption in Snape's internal narrative. He struggles to maintain his bitterness when Harry's calm, curious personality starts reminding him more of Lily's temperament than James's school-age antics. While it doesn't lead to a friendship, it does lead to a professional distance. Snape hesitates to be as overtly cruel, creating a subtle shift in his role within the school and his feelings toward the Potter family. Outside the school walls, the Potters refuse to let the Ministry's version of the past stand. They knew Sirius Black was closer to James than his own brother, and never believed he was capable of handing the Potters to Voldemort. Fleamont identifies a tactical anomaly in the trial records, the explosion in the street. He argues that a calculated murderer like Sirius would have escaped quietly rather than creating a public spectacle that guaranteed his own capture. Fleamont uses his family's considerable wealth and standing in the Wizengamot to hire independent investigators and lobby for a formal review. This sustained political pressure forces Dumbledore and the Ministry to examine the evidence properly, leading to the discovery that Sirius never received a trial. This legal victory means Harry gains his godfather's presence years earlier. He enters his teenage years supported by 3 powerful adult figures who are all legally and emotionally committed to his safety. When Voldemort eventually returns, the landscape of the war is different. He isn't just facing a boy in a school uniform. He's facing a young man backed by the gold, political influence, and historical reputation of the Potter family. The Potter fortune, built on the success of Sleek Easy's hair potion, is used to fund an independent resistance. They don't have to rely on the ministry's slow bureaucracy. Fleamont and Euphemia can call in decades of favors to mobilize allies and secure safe houses before Fudge even admits Voldemort is back. Harry approaches the Horcrux hunt as a collaborative effort. He has the resources to delegate research to experts and the maturity to trust his family with the truth, rather than carrying the burden of the prophecy in isolation. Voldemort's strategy of isolating Harry through fear and media manipulation fails because the Potter name carries too much weight. The Dark Lord finds himself fighting a war against a unified front of experienced, well-funded adults. Despite the support and resources, the final confrontation remains unchanged. Harry eventually makes the decision to walk into the Forbidden Forest alone to face Voldemort. In the original story, Harry's sacrifice was partly framed by a sense of duty and the fact that he had relatively little to lose. In this timeline, he knows the exact weight of what he is giving up, because he has experienced a full life of being loved. He walks toward his death with a clear memory of his grandparents, a home that welcomed him, and a future he was actually looking forward to. He is sacrificing a life that was finally whole. This choice is Voldemort's ultimate defeat. It proves that unconditional love isn't just something Harry found in flashes. It was the foundation of his entire life, and it gave him a strength that no dark magic could ever replicate.